Imagine you step into a small antique shop tucked away in the far corner of an old bazaar. The air is thick with the scent of aged wood and centuries-old books. The shop is dimly lit, a single lamp casting a warm glow over shelves stacked with strange relics, rusted compasses, faded photographs, and coins that belong to no currency you've ever seen. From behind the counter, an elderly shopkeeper emerges. His face is weathered, as if carved by the winds of the sea, and his eyes hold a secret he seems almost afraid to share. Without a word, he hands you a long, leather-bound cylinder. You remove the cap. Inside is a rolled parchment. As you carefully unroll it, your breath catches. Before you lies a map, but not any map you've ever seen. This one shows the world in a way no school atlas ever has. The southern tip of Africa is drawn with perfect accuracy, even though, in its time, most maps left it blank. The coastline of South America is here too, centuries before Columbus ever set sail. And most shocking of all, the coastline of Antarctica, drawn without ice, as if someone had seen it long before it was frozen. In one corner, strange symbols are etched, not entirely Greek, not Arabic, not Latin, but a fusion of many tongues, as if someone had blended the languages of multiple civilizations into one. And in the center, a single line is written: for those who seek the truth beyond the edges of the known world. One question burns in your mind. Who made this map? How? And why does it show places that should have been impossible to know at the time? Today, we will uncover its secrets. Secrets that could change not just history, but the way you see the world forever. After leaving that little antique shop in the bazaar, the map was in your hands, but you had no idea yet what you were truly carrying. You thought, perhaps, it was just a rare collectible, the work of some forgotten cartographer. But the real story was only just beginning. A few days later, you brought the map to a local historian. The moment his eyes fell on it, his expression changed. Without a word, he closed the door to his study, drew the curtains, and reached for a magnifying glass. You watched his face shift from curiosity to disbelief to something that looked almost like fear. Finally, he spoke in a low voice. This shouldn't be possible. In one corner of the map was a coastline that didn't match any known chart from its supposed era. Stranger still, it was a coastline of a continent that, according to official history, wasn't even discovered until centuries later. And here it was, drawn in perfect detail. Then he pointed to something else, a small, intricate symbol near the center. It was a circle layered with 3 concentric rings. The historian explained that this was the emblem of a long-lost maritime guild, a secretive order of navigators who, according to legend, guarded routes and knowledge unknown to the rest of the world until they vanished without a trace. You asked, is it real? He hesitated, then said, if it is, then half of what we know about our past is a lie. That night, you couldn't sleep. The image of the map burned in your mind. The strange coastlines, the alien symbols, the impossible accuracy. You had stumbled onto something far bigger than you'd imagined. You thought you were chasing a curiosity. In truth, you were standing at the threshold of a secret, one that, if fully revealed, could change not just your understanding of history, but the world's. To understand the true significance of this map, we have to step back in time, to an age when most of the world was still a blank space in the minds of explorers. This was a time when the oceans were feared as much as they were admired, when crossing them was a gamble with death, and when every voyage carried the risk of never returning. Before the 15th century, European maps were incomplete and often wildly inaccurate. The southern tip of Africa was a mystery, often marked with ominous warnings like, "Here be dragons," a symbolic way of saying, "Beyond this point lies danger." The interior of Asia was known only through the accounts of caravan traders, and the Americas, well, to most of Europe, they didn't even exist. And yet this map, supposedly created long before Columbus set sail, depicted these places with astonishing precision. The southern tip of Africa was drawn exactly as it is. The coastline of South America was there centuries before it was discovered by Europeans. Even more baffling, the map showed the Pacific Ocean dotted with small islands that match modern satellite mapping. Islands that were completely absent from the charts of the so-called Age of Discovery. For historians, this was a shock. If the map was genuine, it meant someone had charted these lands and seas long before the great European explorers. Someone had crossed oceans, mapped continents, and recorded details that should have been impossible to know at the time. Some scholars suggested it could be the work of ancient maritime cultures. The Phoenicians, perhaps famed for their navigation skills, or the Chinese explorers of Admiral Zheng Yi's era, who are known to have sailed as far as Africa. But others whisper about something even more extraordinary, the possibility of a civilization far older than any in our history books. A civilization that may have existed during or just after the Ice Age, when Antarctica was still green and ice-free. If that were true, it would mean our entire timeline of human exploration, the moment we first crossed oceans, the moment continents first connected, would have to be rewritten. When the map was finally subjected to rigorous scientific testing, most experts assumed it would be exposed as a clever forgery, perhaps the work of a modern artist who had artificially aged the parchment. But when the carbon dating results came back, the room fell silent. The verdict was undeniable. The map was at least 5 centuries old. That meant it existed before Columbus ever set sail. And yet, the details it contained were impossible. The first shock, Antarctica's coastline, drawn without ice. According to modern science, the last time Antarctica was ice-free was thousands of years ago, which meant the original source for this coastline had to be prehistoric. Whoever made this map either had access to records from that time or belonged to a civilization advanced enough to chart it themselves. The second shock, the interior of South America, rivers, mountain ranges, and valleys mapped with such precision, it was as if the cartographer had seen it from the air. But in the 15th century, there were no balloons, no aircraft, no satellites. The third shock, the Pacific Ocean scattered islands, tiny specks of land that matched modern satellite data, yet were completely absent from the charts of the so-called Age of Discovery. And then came the most controversial revelation, a lost landmass drawn in the southern oceans, a continent that does not appear on any modern map. Some claimed it was Atlantis. Others suggested Sunderland or Lemuria, landmasses swallowed by the sea after the last ice age. If the map was genuine, it meant one of two things. Ancient humans possessed navigation and mapping technology far beyond what we believe possible for their time. Or they inherited this knowledge from a source outside our known history, a source we cannot yet explain. When these findings were made public, the academic world split in two. Some dismissed it as coincidence, others as a hoax. But a growing number of voices began to say the unthinkable. If this map is real, then everything we know about the Age of Discovery is wrong. And that's when the theories began to multiply. Theories that would transform this map from a historical curiosity into a time capsule, one that might hold the key to humanity's true origins. Once the map's authenticity was confirmed, one question echoed louder than all others. Who could have made it? And that's where the floodgates opened. Theories began to pour in, some grounded in history, others so extraordinary they bordered on the impossible. One, the ancient global civilization theory. Some historians believe the map is the work of a civilization that existed long before recorded history, perhaps during the last ice age. They argue that the society possessed advanced navigation, astronomy, and surveying techniques that rival our own. The ice-free coastline of Antarctica, they say, could only have been mapped when the continent was still green, thousands of years ago. If true, this would mean our cradle of civilization narrative, which begins in Mesopotamia and Egypt, is incomplete. Humanity's story would stretch back far further and be far more complex. 2. The lost knowledge of the Library of Alexandria. Another theory suggests the map may be a surviving fragment of the legendary Library of Alexandria's archives. When the library burned, the world lost an immeasurable treasure of ancient knowledge. But what if some of its maps and manuscripts escaped destruction, passed down through traders, scholars, or secret societies? This map, then, could be a copy of a copy, its origins buried in the ashes of history. 3. The secret maritime empires. Some researchers point to the possibility of forgotten seafaring powers, the Phoenicians, Polynesians, or even Chinese explorers, who may have crossed oceans and connected continents long before the Age of Discovery. We know Zheng Yi's fleets reached Africa in the early 15th century. Could they have gone further? And Polynesian navigators, with their uncanny ability to find tiny islands across the vast Pacific, may have charted routes that later vanished from mainstream history. For the alien contact theory, this is the most controversial and the hardest to dismiss entirely. Proponents argue that the map's accuracy, scale, and detail suggest it was created from a vantage point impossible for humans of the time, perhaps from space. Ancient myths from around the world speak of sky gods who descended to share knowledge. Could this map be one of their gifts? 5. The time traveler hypothesis. And then there's the wildest theory of all, that the map was made by someone from the future. A time traveler, armed with modern cartography, could have recreated the world as they knew it centuries before it was officially discovered. Science rejects the idea outright, but when faced with an artifact that defies every known historical fact, it's hard not to wonder. Each theory has its champions and its skeptics, but all agree on one thing. This map is more than ink on parchment. It's a challenge, daring us to question what we think we know, to look beyond the neat timelines in our textbooks, and to accept that history is far messier, stranger, and more mysterious than we've been taught. The map, the one that began in the dusty corner of an antique shop, had now become a global enigma. Museums, universities, and private collectors all wanted it. Everyone wanted to claim it, to unlock its secrets. But the deeper researchers dug, the more questions emerged. For some scholars, it was priceless, a window into a forgotten world. To them, the map was a reminder that history is not a straight line, but a labyrinth, with corridors we've never walked and doors we've never opened. For others, it was dangerous. If the map was real, it meant the story of the age of discovery taught in schools was incomplete. It meant that before Columbus, Magellan, and Vasco da Gama, there may have been others, explorers who crossed oceans, mapped continents, and then vanished from the record. Such an idea could shake the very foundations of academic history. And then, something unexpected happened. The map stopped being just an artifact. It became a cultural symbol. Online forums, documentaries, and podcasts debated its origins. Some claim it was proof of Atlantis or Lemuria, lost continents swallowed by the sea. Others saw it as evidence of an ancient global trade network. And a few saw it as a warning. A warning. Because if a civilization once existed that was advanced enough to chart the entire world with such precision, then where is it now? Did it fall to a natural disaster? Did it destroy itself? And if it did, are we walking the same path? Today, the map rests in a secure, climate-controlled glass case. Only a handful of researchers are allowed to study it each year. Yet, the more it is examined, the more it seems to hide. Some believe there's a code embedded in its lines, a hidden message that could lead to another chapter of lost history. Perhaps that's why it has never been fully decoded. Perhaps it only reveals its secrets to those truly willing to seek the truth beyond the edges of the known world. And now, as you've heard its story, maybe you feel the same pull that the historian felt when he first saw it. That unsettling thought, if this is real, then half of what we know about our past is a lie. Maybe that is the map's true legacy, not the places it shows, but the questions it forces us to ask. Questions that remind us history is never fully written. Every generation uncovers something that changes the way we see the world. And perhaps, somewhere out there, another artifact waits, ready to rewrite our story all over again. You've now heard the story of a map that is more than ink and parchment. A map that may hold the deepest secrets of our past. You followed its journey from a dusty corner of an antique shop to the center of one of history's greatest mysteries. You've seen how it challenges what we think we know, and how it dares us to imagine what else might be hidden, waiting to be found. But now, the story is in your hands. What do you believe? Was this the work of an ancient global civilization, lost to time? A fragment of knowledge rescued from the ashes of the Library of Alexandria? The legacy of forgotten seafarers who crossed oceans long before the age of discovery? Or something far stranger, a gift from beyond our world, or a message from another time? I want to hear your theory. Share it in the comments, and don't just tell me what you think, tell me why. The most intriguing ideas might just find their way into a future episode. If this story made you question what you thought you knew about history, if it reminded you that the world is still full of secrets, then give this video a like. And if you want to keep exploring the mysteries that lie just beyond the edges of the known world, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you never miss the next discovery. Because this is only the beginning. There are more secrets out there, and together we're going to find them